the University of Louisville has hired 3 entrepreneurs to help UofL faculty get their inventions to market. Josh Nickols is one of those entrepreneurs. He's here with Will Metcalf, who's the Director of Strategic Initiatives with the Office of the Executive Vice President for Research and Innovation. Josh, good to see you. Welcome to the University of Louisville.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Only been here for a couple of months. Will, good to see you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. So you guys are working together on a project. What is this project you two are working on? Will, you want to describe it?
Yeah, so about, 6 months ago, this state of Kentucky, the Cabinet for Economic Development, put out an RFP for a project called Regional Innovation Support for Entrepreneurship. And we got together with the Louisville Healthcare CEO Council, an accelerator here in Louisville called Accelerate Health, and the Chamber of Commerce, and put in a response to that RFP. And so the idea is, how do we grow an innovation economy here in Louisville, Kentucky? So a knowledge-based economy, leveraging the resources at the university, our big corporate, industry, which largely is healthcare here in Louisville, as well as tech-based. And how do we do that to support entrepreneurship and innovation? And so that's what we're doing. And so part of that, the university's part of that, is the University of Louisville does about $180 million a year in research expenditures. That's kind of a wonky phrase, right? What does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah.
So that means that people in labs, researchers, scientists, postdocs, in labs every day doing science, coming up with new inventions, engineering inventions. It could be a healthcare-related invention. It could be a new way to diagnose a disease or treat a disease. It could be a therapeutic. And then once that invention happens, we go through the intellectual property protection process. So that means we get a patent on it or a copyright. And then we try to license that technology out to a company. That could be a small startup company, or it could be a large, strategic partner like think of a Cook Medical.
So you're trying to get the invention to market one way or the other. Okay.
Exactly. So using that research and those inventions that come out of the university's research activity, and then work with entrepreneurs to grow an economy here in Louisville based upon this technology that's happening. So a lot of this research is funded by the National Institutes of Health or the National Science Foundation, so federal agencies. So growing, once the federal government makes that first investment, if you will, in the research and innovation, and then kind of continuing that going. And that's where we bring in guys like Josh Nickols here sitting next to me, another guy, Jeff Cummings, who's another entrepreneur, and then Charlie Miller to help us. We're calling them entrepreneurs in residence to help us find the path to market for these inventions.
All right. So, Josh, what is an entrepreneur in residence? What's your job with the University of Louisville now?
So it's a lot of things. We're helping the university look at its portfolio. There's a lot of really exciting technologies that are in there now, many of which are healthcare related. That's my background. And so, I'm focused principally there. And I think that we live in a city that has a strong healthcare background as well. And so we're really playing to the strengths there. As an EIR, we also are looking at opportunities where we can turn these into companies that are independent of the university, taking the technology and the ideas that have been generated here and the success of their validation, and then finding what is the recipe around that company or around that technology that becomes a company. Who would need to be involved, what kind of financing would need to be there for it, and then what is the value proposition out in the marketplace.
So you're basically trying to help UofL faculty members take their inventions to market.
Yeah, exactly.
In essence, what's your background? How do you know how to do this?
So my background started academic. I have a PhD from Vanderbilt in molecular neuroscience, also an MBA, and then since then, for the last 20 years, I've been working in the life sciences industry across medical devices, molecular diagnostics, and some therapeutics. I also work with a venture fund out of Cincinnati called Cincy Tech, and also the Cleveland Clinic, leading a company for them.
So you got your fingers in several different pods, huh?
I do, but I like, as we were talking yesterday, I really like being busy, and I think there's a lot of opportunity here to take technologies out of the university and drive them into companies.
Again, that's Josh Nickols, who's one of the entrepreneurs in residence at the University of Louisville that we've just hired, one of 3, and we're also talking with Will Metcalf from the Executive Vice President for Research and Innovation Office at the University of Louisville. And this whole entrepreneur in residence, this EIR program, the acronym, there's 2 other guys, and they are who?
So one is a guy named Charlie Miller, and he's a products development, a technology development guy, so he's software background, and he came out of New York, and he recently moved back to Louisville, as a lot of people do, to be with family. So he's got a young family here, and he was a co-founder of a company and vice president for product at a company called TouchCast, which is basically a gaming company, a software gaming company out of New York, and they've done really well. And what we wanted to do with this whole program is to pull people out, right? So people like Josh and like Charlie, who hadn't really been engaged in the ecosystem here in Louisville, but have a tremendous amount of skills and experience that we could pull out and leverage for growth here in Louisville.
And to help our faculty.
And to specifically help, from my perspective, is to help our faculty commercialize technologies.
Right.
And so that's what Charlie's going to do. Is he's got this software background. We often have, applications we need to develop for phones that have medical use, right? But we don't necessarily have that ability to develop a product that's customer focused or friendly, that people are going to want to use. We know the science and the technology, our inventors do, but how do you build a product out of that that's going to be usable and understandable to the consumer? And that's where Charlie's experience is.
And you got one more guy too, right?
Yeah, and then Jeff Cummings actually started at UofL in biochemistry about probably 20 years ago, and then went back and got his MBA and has been running and launching companies for about the last 20 years in a variety of spaces. That's from the refining industry to most recently he came from a company, Car Keys Express, which was
Car Keys Express.
Yeah, so they reprogrammed the keys, the key fobs.
So if you lock yourself out of your car, you can go to them.
Well, if you lose your key,
you lose your key.
Yeah, they can build a new one. It's a business to business model. It's not to consumer.
Gotcha.
But anyway, he's got a great experience around operations and finance for high growth companies.
Okay. All right, Josh. Who are some of the folks you're working with? You've been here for a couple of months?
Yeah, about a month now.
Okay.
And we started out this, and the LEAP program was very helpful in providing what amounted to basically
We should say what LEAP is.
Yeah.
That's the
So
acronym,
it's the
right?
Louisville Entrepreneurship Acceleration Partnership. And this is the proposal we put into the state, which is partially funded by the state, partially funded by each one of the partner organizations. But it's a group of 4 entities. So UofL, Louisville Healthcare CEO Council, which basically is the CEOs of 12 healthcare organizations based here in Louisville, big ones, $80 billion in revenue annually. Healthcare Focus Accelerate Health, and then the Chamber of Commerce.
GLI.
Yeah.
GLI. Okay. All right. So sorry we interrupted.
No,
we just had to explain what
so
LEAP
that's
is.
a great introduction. So, working with LEAP, we did a sprint through a number of the technologies that are really of high interest, and those again I gravitated toward were in healthcare, and I think that there's several in therapeutics, there's few in devices, and I think most interesting to me at this moment is some technology around machine learning and how machine learning can be used within healthcare.
What is machine learning? What is that?
So good question.
I'm a common guy. I have no
no
idea what machine learning is.
So essentially it is if you can provide a data set of conditions, symptoms, and diseases to a machine and have the inputs correctly that reflect what that disease state is, you can have trend lines or trends that are developed out of that where in the future, based off of a training set, you can say, you're not symptomatic yet, but we see enough of these changes in you to suggest or to diagnose that you have a certain condition.
You're headed towards diabetes, or you're headed towards whatever.
Well, you actually
dementia
nailed
or whatever.
it. Yep, you actually nailed it. So one of the technologies that we're really, really excited about is one for diagnosing diabetic retinopathy. So this is a disease that really remains latent for a long period of time in diabetes patients. So we're aware of the fact that these patients eventually can develop retinopathies, can lose vision. But the problem is that for many, many patients, they don't have access to either a primary care or ophthalmologist who can routinely screen them for the disease. And there's a technology here by the Albaz Lab that has been developed and a platform that we're looking at pairing with it that would give greater reach into the community, giving greater reach into rural areas, helping more people and patients with diabetes in Kentucky get the screening that they need so that they can avert, that later stage of diabetic retinopathy.
So that's one of the folks you're working with at the University of Louisville, and so the funding for that, I know Dr. Albaz at Simon Albaz has gotten some federal funding for some of his research. Is that one of the things, Will, that he's gotten some research money on?
Yeah, he's gotten quite a bit of funding for this specific activity, as well as just more broadly. He's into using machine learning, or commonly referred to as AI, artificial intelligence, to develop imaging-based diagnostic tools. So this is all types of diagnostic tools, including for lung cancer potentially, as well as diabetic retinopathy, which is the one Josh is talking about. Ranging to renal disease and all kinds of other diseases. So it's using this kind of basic platform that he's developed, and this skill set that he has, this huge postdoctoral student group that he has in his lab that can apply these skills across the board, right? And so now that we've gotten this portfolio, this patent portfolio, and then we've got Josh in that can see where investment dollars are going, right? So where are venture capitalists or angel investors and then large strategic companies like IBM making investments in this space, or Google is also very interested in AI for healthcare. And so where is the money going in this space, and how can we attract some of that here to Louisville, right, to take our technologies forward and then maybe grow a whole industrial base around this type of technology.
Right.
That's the idea.
So
because if you get one hit in this, it could
It's a big
change
one,
the
yeah.
trajectory of the whole city.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Josh, you're out telling them how to raise money, basically, is what you're trying to help with, right?
Yeah, that's a part of it.
Or where to find money.
Where to find money is a part of it. What I think right now is we need to take this kernel of an idea and say, okay, there's real opportunity here. But now, what are the other elements that need to be brought into it for it to really be a technology that can be placed into the community, be put out there and help people? And once we have the aspects and elements of that pulled together, I think we'll be in a really good position to help this company raise money.
When you talk to folks from the city of Louisville, I think folks at the University of Louisville as well, who are in this market to be inventors and to try and be entrepreneurs, I think they would say this is a great city for entrepreneurship. You got the basics at the University of Louisville. You got the organisms in place that can make this a great city for entrepreneurship. But the problem is there aren't a lot of venture capital funds here in Louisville, that they have to go elsewhere. So is that part of the problem that you're trying to help these faculty members from UofL overcome to get that point where, you got this great subculture here of researchers doing great stuff, but they just can't find the money to move it to the marketplace? Are you the help with the bridge? Is that kind of the idea?
I think that's partly the issue. I think there's also opportunity to really take the technologies and polish them in a way that they make sense to investors. There's not as much capital as there are in other areas of the country, but we can certainly make a dent in moving technologies out of the university and turning them into companies. And that may be through seed capital, maybe through innovation grants that the university is providing. There are opportunities here that are really exciting. And if we can get them through those early points of validating it, showing that there's promise for this technology, we will find the capital. Capital will follow.
Okay. And what are you hoping to get out of this, Will? What's the EVPRI office, the Executive Vice President for Research and Innovation, hoping to get out of this?
It's a good question, right? So it goes back to trying to get our inventions out into the world, right? So, and that's, so when we get that, when that happens, right, when we have an invention that's licensed to either a startup or a big company, there are royalties that come back to the university, both the inventor and the university, to allow us to continue this cycle, right? To fund innovation grants, which can stimulate new ideas and move those ideas out into the world, so that those people, so that then these inventions can help people. Ultimately, is what it's for, right? So we're doing healthcare mostly here, or it could be also potentially like a renewable energy play, like solar energy technology or new catalysts to help in production of biofuels. These kind of things that ultimately will grow our economy, but grow our economy because there's a place in the market and a need for these services and these technologies, right? So that's what we get is, there's revenue that comes back.
Right, the university gets something out of it.
Yeah,
in
but
cash.
that's mostly just to stimulate this cycle and grow as a university, grow our research base and our ability to commercialize.
All right. Go ahead, Josh. You want to add one final note?
Yeah, teed off on that. This is a virtuous cycle. In investing in these early stage companies, there are things that happen that are indirect, right? You're able to pull in more technology folks. You're able to pull in entrepreneurs. You create an environment that will continue to stimulate and grow the local economy. So I think there's a lot of things that are very exciting about what we're doing now within the LEAP program.
All right. Well, again, Josh Nickols, welcome to the University of Louisville as
Thank
the EIR, the Entrepreneur in Residence, and Will Metcalf, always good to see you.
Yeah,
And
thanks for it.